Welcome to another Sons of Thunder. We're glad you joined us, and we're excited to jump into this week's topic. We want to discuss and elaborate and expound on leading a godly life as a man, as a leader of your household.
Yeah.
All the above, and even what that may look like practically, and excited for y'all to get something out of this. Excited to get something out of this myself. So,
Same.
Yeah,
Facts.
So I'm going to let Kirk go ahead and kick us off. He has been deep in it and is ready.
Yeah. I think for me, I kind of want to take I think about being a godly man, godly living, all of the above. And I felt like I wanted to take kind of maybe the Spirit really wanted me to take kind of more of a broader approach to this to kind of lay some foundation. And I've been in Matthew 5 lately, Sermon on the Mount, which I think is significant, Jesus' first sermon. And so I think it inherently just has some significance because this is the first sermon that Jesus preached, but I think like also the precursor to this, him getting baptized, Holy Spirit descending upon him, being driven into the wilderness, like there's this testing of his sonship and who he really says that he is by the devil himself in the wilderness, and him passing all of those tests, staying faithful to all of the things that are true about him and his relationship with the Lord. And then coming and teaching from that place of being secure in who he is in Christ. And so I think that that's just a good place to start. If it's important enough for Jesus to mention it in his first sermon, I think it's important enough for us to live it.
Yeah.
And so really laying the foundation and really resetting and uprooting some of the cultural teachings that have been happening with the children of Israel. And so we'll start in Matthew 5. We know that it kind of opens up the Sermon on the Mount where the disciples are gathered. There's also large crowds that have kind of gathered to be able to hear this first sermon and these teachings that Jesus has. And we know about the Beatitudes being salt and light, but I kind of want to zero in on how Christ really came to fulfill the law and him really shifting the paradigm and the way of thinking in that culture. And I think that that's the same thing that the Spirit wants to continue to do even today, is to get us to think about godliness and holiness and being a godly man differently than how the world thinks about it. And so we need to start with his definitions of that. And so Matthew chapter 5, we'll start at verse 17. Do not think that I've come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota, not a dot will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of God, least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. And so he's setting up this understanding of the kingdom and also helping people understand who is going to be least and who is going to be great, but also establishing that he isn't going to do away with the law or the prophets that have come before them, because those have been preparatory for believers in Jesus Christ entering into the kingdom of God. And so that's important for us to acknowledge that. Verse 20, and I'll park it here. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So really strong language. And then he goes into a lot of important cultural thought processes and ideas following this. So talking about anger, lust, retaliation, talking about divorce. He talks about some serious cultural topics that have serious implications on how people live because he wants to get at how people live and to bring that to a fullness. I didn't come to abolish the law or prophets, but I came to fulfill it, right? So to bring it to a level of fullness, which really is all about, hey, this isn't just about your external behavior, but about your heart. And so the starting place for us to be able to understand what godly living and being a godly man is like is actually understanding what righteousness is. And Jesus is telling them, at that time, the scribes and the Pharisees were the pinnacle in their society of influence when it came to righteousness. These are supposed to be the holiest of holy people and the most well-versed, the most knowledgeable. Your best theologian. It is like they are the top of the hierarchy of society and influence. And Jesus is coming to them again. Note, this is pre-Holy Spirit. This is pre-Jesus dying on the cross, that he is instructing them, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. And so what he's doing, two things. One, he's setting the standard, which for them is like, How do you even exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees? And you're also telling me that even those people with their righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees won't enter the kingdom of heaven. He's doing two things at the same time, which is like, I mean, this is shocking for Jesus to be able to say this to people, right, out loud. And this isn't I don't want us to think about this as a spectrum of we have the righteousness of the Pharisees here, everybody else is down here, and Jesus is saying, hey, you need to see that and just be higher. He's actually calling them in the original language. When you look at it, he's calling them to a different type of righteousness altogether. Because the scribes and Pharisees were known for having this external sense of righteousness, but inwardly, right, you whitewash tombs, but inside you're full of dead men's bones, right? So there really wasn't any life on the inside, and their ability to allow the law and the prophets to actually transform who they were on the inside. And Jesus is calling them to this new example. And so what does that righteousness look like that Jesus is talking about for people to be able to enter into his kingdom? And how do we as men embrace that? Well, a lot of it is getting at the heart. So one of the examples that Jesus gives is like the law of retaliation was a law in the Old Testament, which is basically, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And so this was there to really limit and restrict retaliation, because if I come at you and I cut off your hand, well, you can't cut off my entire arm. You're just going to be able to cut off my hand. So it was there to restrict the amount of anger that was in people's hearts, but that actually doesn't deal with the true retaliation and anger that's in people's hearts. And so he gives a couple of different cultural context examples. Even, like, hey, if someone comes at you and they take your shirt, also offer them, they sue you and they want your shirt, also give them your cloak. Well, in that historical context, that literally leaves, this would typically happen to poor people, that actually leaves them physically exposed, not just to the elements, but also like physically. And so what Jesus is saying is like, hey, I want to shine the light on the wickedness and the greed in people's heart by coming to take all of these things. Don't be greedy. Yeah. Hey, if somebody commands you, if a Roman soldier commands you to go 1 mile, hey, I want you to go with them 2 miles, right? They could actually co-opt people, soldiers, into like carrying all of their bags, treating basically Jews like a pack mule. So it's also this kind of racial thing that he's dealing with there. And so if they force you to go 1 mile, I want you to assert your humanity, and I actually want you to go with them 2 miles and treat them like a friend, right? If somebody smacks you on one side of the face, offer them the other cheek. Well, how that would happen is most people were right hand dominant. And so if you smack somebody on the right side of their face, that means you're literally backhanding them, which is pimp slapping. Right. And so what that's getting at is a sign of demeaning and actual disrespect. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you're less than a human being because I'm smacking you on the right side of your face, which means I'm backhanding you. Then and Jesus says, offer them your left cheek. Well, if I turn and offer you my left cheek, you literally can't backhand me with your dominant hand anymore. You have to smack me with an open hand, which means that you actually have to treat me as an equal. And so what Jesus is getting that in this law of retaliation and this type of righteousness is like, hey, this isn't about asserting our humanity and pride. This is about helping us understand, one, that Jesus isn't necessarily causing this pain to people, but what he's saying is, hey, I want you to respond in a way that actually exposes what's in their heart and also reveals and demonstrates the righteousness that is in your heart, because it takes a huge level of submission, but also righteousness to be able to say, hey, I'm going to allow you to actually smack me again as an equal. It takes a level of submission and trust in Christ and his righteousness to say like, hey, I'm actually going to walk with you another mile and let you treat me like a pack mule. And so what it does, and the way that I'm kind of understanding this passage is it's actually I don't want to say balancing. It's leveling out the playing field of like, these people are also made in the image of God, the offenders and also the ones that are actually being offended by some of these crimes. And it's revealing what's in the heart of men, one, for the person that actually was the victim of an offense or some situation that's happening, but also the one that caused the offense. And so there's this equal opportunity for hearts to actually be transformed and exposed. Why is that important in terms of righteousness? Because typically Jews in this time, they did not care about the Romans. Yeah. Politically, they were just like, hey, we just want to get these people out of here. They wanted a king that was actually going to overthrow them. So they had no form of righteousness of actually considering Gentiles. It was, you're literally less than, and your dogs and all the things. And so they didn't have any hearts that were actually bent towards their salvation and their righteousness also being established. And Jesus is coming and literally flipping the tables. He's uprooting things that are actually in the heart of the Jews to be able to say, hey, the righteousness that you need to have if you want to be in my kingdom is completely other than this righteousness that you've seen demonstrated for generations with the Pharisees and the scribes, which is powerful, right? That even now Christ is calling us to a different type of righteousness, which actually puts us in a position for us to become more like Christ. And that's the righteousness that God is getting at. And that's the type of godly living. And especially being a godly man. I mean, it happens with wives all the time. Could God, you know what I mean? Like in a moment of, you know, whatever of emotion, saying something, could God grace a woman to be able to have a more Christ-like response? Absolutely. But he's calling men to that standard. Do you get what I'm saying? To be able to respond in a way that reflects his loving compassion of them. And so I think the kind of the key message of godly living is actually understanding, one, where our righteousness comes from, which is Christ, because even our works are filthy rags. That's what Paul says. And embracing his righteousness to actually become more like him, which means that we're going to endure some things that are just not fun. And so are we willing to be able to endure and do hard things in order to become more like him, Jesus being our chief and number one example of enduring hard things?
Yeah. I think that's, I agree. It seems reasonable even today, and specific even today, relevant even today, referring to men as the household leader, the way that God designed it. And, I think it's certainly a touchy subject these days. And, just to clarify, I 100% believe in support women in ministry.
Yeah.
I don't think that a misinterpretation or taking particular things out of context, everyone always leans on Paul for their reason why they want women to sit down and shut up.
Mm-hmm.
But, women weren't the only people Paul told to sit down and shut up either. So just to be perfectly clear.
Got him.
No, it's always even kind of been a hot point. I think with a lot of women, even just the concept of women being the weaker vessel in the Bible, like that's, for good reason. And I understand why that's probably not your favorite verse. And I don't think it is in the same context as, of course, what women think or what feminists believe, what people believe today. That means that simply that they're lesser human beings,
right?
No, so I think it's just simple biology of the men, not even just traditionally in the roles of the household, but the way God designed it in the household.
Yeah.
I want to be perfectly clear as well. Like, this isn't like our, I don't consider it, at least, this isn't our professional TED Talk lecture from,
right.
The professionals to the misinformed, uninformed listeners. This is stuff that I deal with on a daily basis,
100%,
every day,
in our own hearts, in our own lives,
There's stuff that we're talking about here. Like, we're doing this because we're learning. We want to share the kind of the revelation that we've been getting as we grow ourselves, and I hope that's helpful to anybody. If anything, it's helpful to me, and y'all get to watch it in real time. So, if nothing else, enjoy the show.
Yeah.
But even from a standpoint of leading the household. It's been quite a few challenging things, and frequently, and even just leading that from a godly perspective. And this was actually a conversation Katie and I got into just recently. This isn't like, when I first got saved. No, this is recently. Like, we've been doing this for a while, and it's like, I spoke on how she was really pushing. And it's unfortunate she had to push, but sometimes she has to motivate me. But even just getting together for devotionals and being intentional about the time that we spend together, praying together, and realizing we do all these things in front of our kids and to show our kids and to teach our kids. And then when our kids go to bed, it's like, all right, man,
we're done.
We're done for the day.
100%. I'm in the same boat with you.
She's just like, that ain't cool, man.
Yeah.
She was much more gracious in her verbiage than that, but, it pushes us to conversations that we never would have had naturally. It's things, and then we get done, we're like, man, that was so good. Like, I know you on a different level. I know where you're at on a different level. Things that, again, just don't come up in a natural conversation unless you are getting into the Word, getting into praying together on a regular basis. And it's tough. Our daily lives are pretty wild. So when somebody says, like, there's just not enough time in the day, man, like, that's
real.
That's a flag I fly. Like, I understand it. We're up at 5 a.m. We got 5 kids to get up, get fed, get dressed, get out the door to school, and then immediately to work. As soon as work's over, kids are getting off school. Then it's time for dinner. Then it's time for homework. Then it's time for baths. Then we do devotionals. So I mean, from 5 o'clock to 9 p.m. is just straight. It's on all day, every day,
and it is exhausting.
It is,
like, having kids, being married, existing, living, being a, what I mean, like, just being a husband, being a father, like, all the things, working, what I mean, being an employee. Those things are naturally tiring. And I think it's like, that's a part of the design.
Yeah.
Like, pain is a mechanism that God uses to actually shape and mold us, because I think the reality is a lot of us really wouldn't have a bend or willingness to change unless we actually interacted with pain. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, people want things to change in marriage because pain is typically being experienced. That's what's signaling, like, hey, something needs to change. People usually run to the Lord when pain is being experienced. They hit rock bottom and they're like, I don't want to continue living or doing in the same way. And so, like, I think part of, like, godly living and being a godly man is, like, learning how to actually grapple with pain and learning how to allow God to use pain to shape and to transform us. You get what I'm saying? Like, absolutely. Jesus went through it. I mean, even in his not even talking about relationships, but just relationally, Jesus was like, man, how long do I have to put up with these guys? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how long do I have to be with you? How long do I have to deal with this wicked and perverse generation? Like, we're going to be in situations that are exasperating and exhausting and tiring for us. And that is a space that God can actually strengthen us. Because in our weakness, his strength is made perfect. You get what I'm saying? So, like, a point of what I'm saying is, like, and what you're highlighting, practically speaking, is, like, there are opportunities for God to be involved in our life. I think it's what's helpful for us is stepping away from this space that we have to have this grandiose thing to demonstrate godliness. It's like, nah, just being married requires you. It's going to challenge you and require you to be more godly. Just having kids, 1, 2, let alone 5, is going to require, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. And he is there and he's present with us in those moments. And he's actually helping us.
He has to be.
Just so we don't kill him.
It wasn't this, it was all burned down a long time ago.
Yeah, it's real. Like, I think our dependency, it's important to note that our dependency for Christ actually has to increase. Yeah. I think that alone will actually make us more godly. 100%. You know what I mean? Like, you think about really godly people, like, I typically see a correlation with their godliness and their dependency on Christ. Because that's what's helping that godliness to be able to flow and that character change and transformation to happen. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I would say even more so in those times where it is the hardest. Yeah. Is a time I have seen that is most impactful. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, I've started off those devotions like, and the Lord said, yeah, that's real. I'm going to get through this. And it's like, all right, we can shut the light off when I'm done. Mm-hmm. And by the end of it, we're still woken up. I mean, we're having a conversation like, oh man, I cannot believe this came out of that, just for the simple fact that I didn't want to do it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. Like, that's a real thing.
Yeah, and that's I think that makes me think of Paul's words in 1 Corinthians. I want to say it is 16. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 16, right? So, like, and this is when he's giving final instructions to the Corinthian church, which, by the way, was a very gifted church. I mean, people speaking in tongues and prophecy, but they really didn't have love, which is important for godliness, because God is love. And so he's wrapping up and kind of giving them the last instructions before he ends his first letter. In verse 13, 1 Corinthians 16 says, "Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong." Like that, you know what I mean? The definition of act like men is really kind of right there. Like, be strong. Like, he's encouraging the believers and the men in this church, in this community, to actually be strong. Like, understanding that it requires strength to get through a devotional. And many times even for me, like, my thing is like, it requires strength for me to like pray in the morning. Cause I'm just like, I just rather start my day, which really isn't a healthy way to start my day. But I'm like, I just rather distract myself by being on my phone kind of first thing in the morning. Sure. Like, that's one of the things that I've noticed is the thing for me is like, it's just easier for whatever reason to appease my flesh by just distracting and not having to think about all the things that have to happen during the day of taking kids and need to get grocery and need to find out what meals we're going to do and meal prep and need to cook stuff and need to work and need to email. Like, it's just easier for me to not have to confront those things or face those things first in the morning. And it's just like, nah, be strong. Like, in those moments,
that is
act like a man.
That is a real life demonstration of the world trying and often succeeding and just occupying your time. And I have found most definitely, especially with our lives and our schedules, man, when I'm up in the morning, or I'm always the last to go to bed, always. And it's always been I've always been a night owl. But after kids, it really kind of turned into everyone's quiet.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, I finally have some time just for me.
Yeah, that's real.
And the same in the morning. You wake up and it's like, I want to wake up slow. I want to just drink my coffee. Nobody talk to me. And that includes God.
Yeah.
I don't,
that's so real.
I'm not ready for it now.
Yeah,
you don't want to talk to me before this cup is empty. It's reality.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing. That's been the hardest thing, is like giving up all of my time is dedicated to everyone but me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, I've got this little bit of time. And God's like, who are you going to give it to?
Yeah. And man, that's so real. And that's really good, because that is, I just think about godliness, and when we say that he is our Lord and Savior, it's like a lot of times we're just more comfortable with him being the Savior.
Exactly.
And it's like, being Lord means that he literally does own everything. And if I submit that to him, as difficult as that is, and I think there's a bunch of nuance to it, because a lot of times it's like, I don't even know how. You know what I mean? Or like just the honesty of like, I don't want to. Because I think that's where I've leaned in more so in my relationship with the Lord the last few years, and not in like a disrespectful kind of way, but I think in like pouring out my complaint to the Lord, as David did, or just like a honesty, because I mean, he sees our hearts. Yeah. And so I don't know, for me recently, I've just been like, he literally knows everything. So me confessing this is not like it's not like he's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know
the
that.
best place you can be.
Yeah.
Just being honest with God.
Just being real. Like, God, I really don't want to be reading my Bible first thing in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to wake up an extra 30 minutes or hour early to spend time with you. I want to spend time with you, but I want to spend time with you on my terms. I want to spend time with you when it's convenient for me. And giving that stuff to him and being honest with the things that he already knows, like that there's something about that creates this space when that does lead to surrender, of like, I don't want to do this, but I'm willing to do it. You get what I'm saying? Like there's something that happens in that honesty and in that submission and in that surrender that allows him to actually transform us and to make us more like him. Because here's the reality. We have a great high priest that can sympathize with us. Like, Jesus felt that way in some capacity or some aspect of his life. Jesus felt that way. Whether it's in the Garden of Gethsemane or things that are undocumented, it's like, hey, I don't want to do this thing that you're asking me to do, but not my will, but yours. You get what I'm saying? And that is like, because it's really not formulaic. If we stay on that path and continue doing that, we do become more like him.
Yeah. That's the amount of things that have changed in just our relationship and our marriage for something so small and in the grand scheme of our days and our lives seems so insignificant.
Yeah.
It's it's been really, I mean, again, it's something so small and,
but it's also so godly. And I actually think I don't know why the word just hit me, but I'm like, no, that's actually a big thing, because devotion. God, I'm devoting this to, you get what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of power in the word. And I think because like, I don't know if devotions get a bad rap. I think in some cases, because there's so many of them, but
they're not all created equal.
They're not.
I respect that argument.
That's real. Some devotions are not good. But I think about like the actual idea or the denotative meaning of like devotion. God, I'm devoting this time to you.
The intention.
You You know what I'm saying? Like, which actually comes out of a heart posture, which is, God, I'm devoting, I'm giving, I'm surrendering, I'm submitting, I'm entrusting, I'm yielding this time to you with intentionality. You get what I'm saying?
Sometimes the point is you don't want to.
Yeah. But I've devoted it to you, so here it is.
It's yours.
Yeah. That's powerful, man.
You're going to have it. I don't necessarily want it. I don't like it. I mean, how often does that happen in just life and in ministry in general?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you necessarily have to like it all the time. Pain's not fun. I don't think anybody enjoys, the idea of pain.
Yeah.
Although, there is, the accompaniment of contentment with it.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I think that's the hardest thing to try to explain to people. And I think even some of the things that we've said are like, it's going to get so much worse. It's going to, just get prepared.
I used to hate when your dad said that. And then I was just like, nah, he's right. Cheer up, it's going to get worse. And it's like,
but, and the Bible does say that pain, that struggle and suffering comes with contentment. They go together.
Yeah.
I think that's important to notice. Like, it's hard to explain to somebody that who is maybe just walking in the door to it, is new to the idea. It's like, oh man, I don't want to do this. Everybody says it sucks. It's like, well, yeah, in a different way. But you learn something from it. So there's that. And I was having this conversation with Joanne again just recently, like over just some of the things that we've learned, and I was just like, man, why didn't you just tell me? Just tell me. She's like, well, would you have listened?
That part. I'm like, nah.
No, I wouldn't.
You could have just plowed a little bit.
Give me a little push.
Yeah, I don't know. That's my self-righteous. I get so frustrated with that kind of stuff.
No, I'm self-aware.
I'm like, please just tell me. Like, but telling doesn't always equal one teaching.
Especially, and I would say maybe I'm a rare case, but especially for me, like you can tell me something till you're blue in the face, but if I'm not in that position to be ready or even understand, I don't understand the other side of it. I don't understand what's to be learned from it. I think there's a lot of, and some of the stuff I've learned I didn't expect to learn from the situation. They're not always so related as, somebody slaps me and my cheek hurts. It doesn't always go together that way.
Right.
And it's been vital. I mean, essential to, our growth is some of the things that we've had to go through. So would I've liked to done it a different way, an easier way? Absolutely, all day, every day. But I wouldn't know what I know now.
Yeah. And I think just like the surpassing value of knowing Him, that's Bible. That really is the value and the worthy part of it. Is like, man, I wouldn't know. One, we wouldn't know what we know now. Completely agree with you 100%. And also, we wouldn't know God the way that we know God now. I know that I wouldn't be as close to Him, as godly, as we are, as we're continuing to mature and just knowing Him and being sons and our identity and just all the things. And that has had very little to do with like the outward expression of those things, which that is my natural tendency, is like the righteousness to show up in a way where other people see it. You get what I'm saying? Yep. That's just what's, I think that, well, not even, I think that is what's celebrated in our culture.
It is.
And I think that's just, I know that that's also a person, I don't know if it's a personality thing for me, but that's just my tendency, is for those things to be able to show up in a way where other people can recognize it and the celebration and all the things.
And I love it. Even to that point, this is kind of where I was reading through as well. And I started in Timothy. And again, I always have tried to make a habit of go back and know what's on both sides of it instead of just looking for it. But I just came across, and this is literally in the first chapter of Timothy.
Mm-hmm. First Timothy or?
First Timothy, yeah.
Okay,
still at least in the same topic. This is First Timothy 1:4. Don't let them waste their time in endless discussions of myths and spiritual pedigrees. These things only lead to meaningless speculations which don't help people live a life of faith in God.
Man, that's powerful.
I think
speculation. Wow.
Speculation. I don't know what yours says.
Mine says, nor devote themselves to myths and endless genealogies, which promote speculations rather than the stewardship from God that is by faith. In other words, you could think about something, but you can't do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
from speculating or that just being kind of intellectual or what have you, or mental and all the things to actual stewardship. Man, that's powerful.
I think a lot of some of the things that have been difficult stepping into this, like how do you do this on a daily basis and live a life that is in such a manner that is pleasing to God and furthers your your journey towards your purpose?
I got an example for that.
Oh, hit me.
I do. Yeah. This is actually from James. James is my favorite book of the Bible. I feel like it just always has a habit of smacking me upside the head, but I just really like it. It's just a great letter. And James, this is chapter 1. So all of the testing of our faith, which that's kind of like my wheelhouse. But then James 1:19, it says, "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God." And I've known that verse of like quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. But I think in terms of like for people, just human beings, but especially men, because I feel like that's an emotion that we're just familiar with, that God, for whatever reason, we've been designed with that. Like my anger does actually not produce God's righteousness. Even if I'm angry for the right reasons, like a human form, a manly form, an earthly form of anger does not produce righteousness that God wants. It doesn't cause people to move in a direction that actually helps their relationship with God. And reason why I'm saying that's a practical example, because it's like then what do you do with it? Because we're going to get angry. We're going to be frustrated. And there is some prescription there in terms of like being quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to get angry. But it's like getting up underneath like what is actually producing the anger. And I think what this verse is subtly hinting at is like when we aren't quick to listen and we are not slow to speak, like the result is that we actually are quick to anger because we just don't understand.
Right.
And so how do we wrestle with things that we don't understand? Well, going to the person that actually does understand and does know everything, right? I think Paul writes, it may be in 1 Corinthians, but like we don't war against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, darkness, like that's Ephesians. But basically one of the things he's saying is like we take every thought captive unto the obedience of Christ. And so the reason that we are taking our thoughts captive is so that way we can actually obey Christ. And then he goes on to say like, eventually, like as we mature, we'll be able to punish every form of disobedience. You get what I'm saying? And so I think for me, what I'm learning practically through this is like, am I actually taking things captive practically? Or am I just letting my thoughts run rampant? Case in point, what we were talking about, not wanting to do the devotional, not wanting to wake up and read the Bible. Do we actually grab those thoughts, like apprehend those thoughts and bring them into captivity so that we can obey Christ? And I think that's one of the ways that we miss opportunities for godly living is just by not doing that simple, practical thing of like, I'm going to grab this thought. I'm not going to let this run rampant and I'm going to take it captive. I'm going to pull down every stronghold that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. A lot of the anger comes from us not understanding things, but that pride is causing our own thoughts to exalt itself against the knowledge of God. In other words, our own thoughts are exalting and rebelling in pride against the things that God actually knows. That's why human anger does not produce the righteousness of God, because we actually don't know what God knows. And so we're angry about this misunderstanding about the thing that God knows, but we're actually not going to the person that knows everything to actually help us to mature and deal with the anger. You get what I'm saying? And so like it requires the humility of being able to go like, God, I actually don't know everything that I need to know. That's why I have you. That's why I have the Holy Spirit inside of me. And so let me depend on you in the areas of frustration or misunderstanding or not being angry, and I'm simultaneously taking these thoughts captive because I think that I know, but I really don't. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think that's one of the, and I know that's one of the biggest issues. I think so many people today coming into Christianity, people that have been in Christianity for all their lives, that have been sitting in pews and theater seats, whatever you sit in. I don't have a problem with what you sit on. I think people are embarrassed, sheepish to just ask the questions to understand.
Yeah.
And, I haven't told Kay this last week. This is one of the things that I've struggled with the most is I have a hard time understanding and really keeping them separate long term.
Mm-hmm.
How do I love God?
Okay.
Who is here? I don't see him.
Yeah.
I feel him. And there are a lot of times, this is almost two separate points here, that it'll be crickets. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes I don't feel like I'm hearing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get anything. And it's just like, this is kind of circles us back. It's like, what am I asking?
Yeah.
You know, I'm taking the time. I want God to answer me. I'm saying I'm so frustrated. I'm standing here spinning my wheels. I can't hear you. I'm not hearing you. What's the problem? Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Phone home. And, you know, just having that kind of smack in the face realization, like, well, when are you spending time asking him?
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you allotting this amount of time? God, I want you to answer me.
Yeah.
These are my hours.
That's real.
Of operation. Please fax during these hours.
Yeah. Not facts.
It's you know, what am I giving to him? What availability and what time am I coming to him as opposed to expecting him to come to me and knock on the door like he would need to say something. But back to my last point is not even really a point, just something that I've honestly struggled with is, you know, I believe 100%. Mm-hmm. I know God's real. I know he's there. I can't see him. He's not physical in this house. When I wake up in the morning, I don't roll over and see him. You know, I see my wife, and I was like, you know, this is, I think, the biggest thing that gets me sidetracked so often that no one seems to talk about is, how do I consistently love God more than I can love you? Not you, Katie. You too. But Katie specifically.
Yeah.
You know, to love my wife the way that I love my wife. It's just like, I don't always know that I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I feel like I do. I certainly strive to,
mm-hmm.
but there are also times when I just feel like my day can get totally hijacked and moved over here. And I don't mind doing it because I love my wife. It's doing something my wife wants to do or all these things. And I don't feel like I've ever heard anyone
like really talk about
nothing
or teach on that or
it's
disciple.
Like I can't be the only one.
Yeah.
I can't be.
And I want to make sure I'm understanding, like, so you're talking about not hearing people talk about how to love God more than we love our wives that are in front of us physically. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I guess if you really boil it down to it, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't even feel like I do that well, like on both of those aspects. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm constantly seeing areas in my own life where it's like, man, I should have had a different response to my wife, or man, I could have loved her better, or man, X, Y, and Z, and all the things, just the litany of opportunities that I'm just like, oop, blew that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, that's a great question.
I feel like sometimes I'm the opposite side of that.
Yeah. I know that I have done some studying in Ephesians. I was actually looking at Ephesians this past week, Ephesians 5, I want to say, where it talks about, and I feel like I kind of saw like 4-ish examples of like how to love our wife, and they all hard. Mm-hmm. Of just like, love your wife as Christ loved the church, like because he gave himself for her, right? That being one of them. Washing her with the water of the word, nourishing and cherishing her. I feel like that's kind of like the 4 that I've identified. And I'm like, help me. And I had a good example in like a earthly father to be able to see what a lot of that looked like. I think externally again, but I think it's like, man, the matter of the heart that comes along with that is like, that's really where the transformation needs to take root, and like the desire, because he goes on to say, Paul, like a man who loves his wife basically loves his own body. To love your wife is to love your own body. Which that, I mean, for me, cerebral, then I spiral more like, do I love myself? Because I think those are like and I think that it just, no matter what we do, there's just no way to escape that this really is based on our love for ourselves, our love for our wives, our love for our children, our love for other people and relationships is literally just comes from the substance of how much we feel that God loves us.
Right.
That's just, we cannot escape that at the end of the day, because I think that's just where the rubber meets the road. Because if I go back to like, okay, well, how do I actually love my wife? Well, love my wife as Christ loved the church. Okay. Like, well, I don't necessarily feel a tremendous amount of love from God. Scripturally, I know that he loved us first, but sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what that looks like.
Right.
Now, of course, obviously, let me change how I said that. I do know what that looks like because Christ came and died for us. I don't know what that always feels like, and to be able to regulate and understand, I find myself in this constant state of flux of like, do I feel loved? Do I feel loved by God? Do I feel loved by God? I know intellectually that that's a reality, a spiritual reality. I mean, he sent his son to literally die for me, to die for us. So I think that we can agree on that. But I think in terms of like, what does this feel like? I don't even think that that's a healthy way to determine if we're being loved. I just don't know how to stop doing that. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, how do we allow that love to just flow from a different place that it's just from a state of being? I think that's just a journey of sonship that it's like, I know more yesterday and 3 years ago and 10 years ago than I do now. But man, allowing that to flow and to just let God love us and to understand that God really is crazy about us, even if we don't do anything for him, I'm just like, there's part of me that is exalting itself. That knowledge is my own knowledge and my own understanding is exalting itself against the knowledge of God in that area, which means I need to take some thoughts captive. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't think that was helpful, but
no, I think it's all helpful. I think it's something that I feel like people need to really pursue, I think, an answer on. I think a lot of people have a hard time with it, just in general. And, I have found that, and Joanne's got a diagram for everything, I promise you. She sent me one as well. And
was it the L diagram thing?
No, this one was a triangle.
Oh, okay, there we go. Shapes, I like it.
And I loved it. It was, it's something that I can see. I can physically see it help.
But with the husband and wife and God at the same. Okay, I'm with you. You got to stop doing the Illuminati thing. No, I'm just and living it. It's hard to live. It's really like you literally do have to be discipled into it. You know what I mean? Like, it really is a learning process. It's a continue to follow. It's a continue to learn. Like, it's all those kind of like original language definitions of disciple, learner, you know what I mean? Like follower, like just keep following. You get what I'm saying? And I think that so much in our American culture, like we look for things to be fixed, striving for continuous improvement. Or like a report card, you know what I'm saying? Of like, God, I just want you to know I'm better than I was yesterday. And it's like, he knows, you know what I'm saying? And just all the ways that we look to measure and do better. And I think that there is something up underneath all of that. And for me, that just leads me to go like, what is the actual passion? Not the desire, because that comes from the passion. What is the passion that I'm looking to fulfill? And I think that for me, which a lot of times robs me of becoming more like Christ and becoming a godly man and all the things, is that I need, and I'm using that word intentionally, like there is a craving, there is a fleshly craving, there is a fleshly passion that says like, I need somebody to tell me something about myself. So that way, like that has to be satisfied. I need to know that I'm right. I need to know that this is the right thing. And I need to know that this is the right thing in your eyes, because that satisfies it. You get what I'm saying? Like this fleshly passion of just like, all right, cool. Now I'm going to take 3 more steps forward because I feel like I got an A or whatever it is. 100%. Yeah.
Aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we end up with these vague, sweeping prophecies that people give. And I see it all. You can't go hardly anywhere watching anybody's, sermons or podcast or whatever it is on YouTube without seeing 15 other ones of doomsday prophecy.
Yeah.
Red heifer prophecy. It's just like, guys,
all these red heifers out here. Yeah, we be focused on the wrong thing. We really are. And it really is the enemy is good at distracting us. Yeah. And he's very crafty. And I find that the more that I've grown, I found that that's I would probably say top 3 tactics that get me off in a tizzy. Case in point, even on like becoming like Christ, like I get distracted with my own passions and the things that I'm seeing in myself that need to be fixed. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like that becomes a distraction from just walking with him and learning with him and being holy as he is holy. And also just the reality of like the righteousness of Christ has been imputed to me. By faith, I have his righteousness. Everything that he has had when he was up on the cross, the perfection and the without sin, like that has literally been imputed to me. So why am I still like deadbeat on trying to earn something or attain some level? It's this back where we started. It's this Pharisaical type of righteousness, which is going to be demonstrated in front of other people. And I think that like there's just a part, and I'm not saying this the state of my heart, and it could be, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I think that there's just a part of me that's just like, I need, you know what, now that I think about it, I don't even know if it's about other people seeing it and affirming it. I think it's like, I need to see it myself. And one of the ways that shows up is in other people saying it.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's some space inside of my heart where I'm like, God, that's just not enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to, it's just not enough to know it. Like, I need to feel it. It needs to manifest and do all of this stuff. And I think, like, if my son was doing all that stuff to me, I'd be like, what are you talking about, boy? Like, why are you doubting my, like, you know what I mean? And I could point to things
he
like,
probably does. And God probably feels the same way. Like, you spend 30 minutes with your kid going, Daddy, watch this. Daddy, watch this. Daddy, watch this. And it's like, like,
jump spin around. Yeah. It's like, wow, that was incredible. Right, but it's like, I don't love you because you did a jump spin.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it, and yeah, 100%.
That's how I imagine most of the stuff looking. And that's about as impressive as it looks to God.
Yeah. That's wild.
Daddy, look at me.
Yeah.
The red heifer.
Jump spin. And it's like, Lord, help me to just find not even find, you bring me to a place of security.
Yeah.
I'm a sheep. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's no knock or no shame or anything like that. Like, he knows where he needs to place me. Let me just keep batting along. I'm a son. Like, there is a natural security that comes just from the relationship. I'm not doubting that Silas is my son. Silas isn't doubting that I'm his dad. We spend time in each other's presence every single day. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not up for debate.
Right.
And I think what I'm saying is like a revelation of that burying itself. You know what? I feel like the Lord's even speaking to me now. I think it's just like, how do I want to say this? Faith comes in seed form. And I think that I'm just like, I'm ready for this thing to be like a 50-foot tall oak tree. And he's like, nah, you're doing good. It's there. It's just a small tree right now. Like, chill. You're watering it. I'm watering it. It's got good sunlight. It's got good exposure. Relax.
I think part of the expectations I think we have is in those periods, being as fragile as those small trees are.
Yeah.
They're going to get blown around some.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, is this thing going to get uprooted? Am I going to fall? And it's like, well, the storm ain't going to feel good.
Yeah.
But once you weather and once you endure this storm, you're going to learn something about yourself. That even though it doesn't look as mighty as a big oak tree, it was still stable enough and rooted enough and planted in the right spot for it to sustain something that you didn't even think that you could sustain. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think that that's the way that the Father works in us, is like, he's like, I know that you could do this. I know that you got, because I've designed you, I've created you, all the things. You're going to learn something about yourself in this process, and you're going to learn something about me, about trusting me in this process. And that is like, that's the beholding him and becoming like him. Do you get what I'm saying? Which
Absolutely.
is a powerful experience. So, yeah.
We're going to draw this one to a close, but I think we have much more to say. So please look forward to and join us for additional discussion. I feel like we barely cracked the surface here on godly living. And we're looking forward to more.
Yeah, 100%.
So we will catch you very soon.